Hello, and thank you for joining me. It's that time of year when there's a chill in the air, color in the leaves, and pumpkins. A lot of pumpkins. It's soup season, baby! These days, so many popular recipes like to espouse how simple they are and how few ingredients they require. But recipes like that have been around for ages, and I find that many soup recipes embody those same principles. Soups are practical, economical, and deeply comforting. Basically, every culture on Earth has at least one version they call their own, so it's nice to know we can all agree on one thing. Soup. Soup is good. And today we are taking a look at one of my old favorites, split pea soup. This is actually one of the first soups I ever cooked from scratch. I got my first apartment while going to school in Richmond, and after a year of living in the dorms without a kitchen, it was nice to get back to one of my favorite hobbies, cooking. It was a tiny little kitchen, but I made some great meals there. Back then I actually entertained the idea of making a channel called Little Sally's Kitchen, where I would cross-dress and make recipes in my little kitchen. Sadly, that never materialized. Anyway, enough nostalgia, let's get back to that soup. Here are our ingredients for today. I've got 1 pound, 454 grams, of split green peas. Apparently here in Denmark, split yellow peas are more common, so if you have those, feel free to use them instead. I also have 1 leek, 1 onion, a couple cloves of garlic, a little dry chili, and about half a pound of smoked bacon. Normally I would use a smoked ham hock, but those are hard to come by where I am, so I'm going the bacon route. Before we get chopping, let's talk about some of these ingredients, starting with the leeks. Don't be intimidated if you've never used them before. They need a little love before we can use them, but they have a really unique flavor nothing else can replicate. Let's start by taking off the root end, and maybe a little off the top. Then we peel off a couple of the outermost layers depending on how dry and loose looking they are. Then use a knife to trim off the tougher parts of the outer layers. Just look where there is a transition in the color, where the shiny green meets the more dark matte green, and make a shallow cut. It doesn't have to be perfect. And make sure you save all the trim, it's great for stock. This is what mine looks like after it's all trimmed up. Now I just split it in lengthwise a couple times, but not slicing all the way through to the root end so it stays intact. Then we just want to run that under some cold water. Leeks often have a bit of dirt between the layers. It gives them their great character. Now we just slice along the length of the leek and we are all set. While we are dealing with the vegetables, let's go ahead and dice our onion. And then smash and roughly chop our garlic cloves. I'm not cooking Italian today, so I'm leaving the garlic germ in there. Take half of your bacon to cut up for garnish. The bacon I've got is unsliced, so I'm just going to make thick slices, and then I'll cut those slices into pieces. These are actually called lardons in French cooking. If you're using pre-sliced bacon, just slice it approximately into inch-sized pieces or so. And for the star of the show, the peas. Like lentils, peas require no soaking before cooking. But like a lot of dried legumes and beans, it's a good idea to take a look through them to make sure everything is A-OK. Discard anything that looks funky. The bags that peas and lentils come in often tell you to look out for little stones. I've only ever found 1 stone in my time, but today I got this little twig. Now that our peas passed inspection and all our ingredients are ready, we can get cooking. Grab your most favorite soup pot and head to the stove. We want to start by rendering out our pieces of bacon. I add a little splash of olive oil just to help things get started. It seems like the bacon I'm using was probably brined instead of dry cured like I'm used to, so it took my pork a little time to get nice and crispy, but they got there eventually. once you get them how you like them, take a slotted spoon and remove them from the pan to save for garnish. Looking good. Now for our aromatics. The bacon left some beautiful residue in the bottom of our pan, which is perfect for our onions. On medium heat, I start to saute our onions and leeks. The bacon I used was pretty lean, so I didn't have too much fat in the pan, but if your pork left you with a lot of grease, feel free to remove some of it, but make sure you leave yourself at least a tablespoon or so. As you can see, it doesn't take long before the moisture from the onions and leeks helps that residue, or fond, at the bottom of the pan to let up. We just keep cooking those aromatics until they start to soften, going slightly translucent, and maybe taking a little color on the edges. That's when I like to make a little space in the center of the pot and add my garlic and dry chili. In most cases, when I use garlic and spices in sauces, soups, and stews, I like to give them a chance to bloom in the heat before I add my liquid. But you don't need long, just 15 seconds or so until it becomes super fragrant. Don't burn it. Once the garlic and chili is bloomed, I add my dry peas, followed by 6 cups of liquid, half water and half chicken stock. I happen to have this beautiful homemade chicken stock on hand, but you could certainly use just water. At this point, we can also add the remaining 1/4 pound of bacon. Mine came in a block, so I've got these thick pieces, but you could just toss in strips if you were using pre-cut, or if you have that ham hock instead, add it now. My bacon was also different in that it came with a skin attached, which I had to remove. The skin not only has good smoke taste, but it also has some good collagen, so I'll go ahead and add that to the pot while the soup cooks. I'm also adding about a teaspoon of salt or so, but bear in mind, saltiness in bacon varies greatly, so don't go overboard. You can always add a bit more towards the end of cooking. Bring this whole thing to a boil, and then drop it down to a simmer. You may notice some gray foam rising to the surface. This kind of thing happens when cooking dry beans and peas. If you want extra credit, you can skim this off with a spoon, but it definitely won't hurt anything if you just leave it in. Now we cover that pot and let it simmer for about 1 hour. You will know your peas are cooked when they start to break down, and when you go to taste, the peas aren't crunchy at all. At this point, I will also remove my bacon and pork skin. Sometimes recipes say that you should toss the bacon after it is simmered, but I'm going to dice this up and add it back to the soup. This would also be a good time to taste and adjust the salt if need be. And if it seems a little thick, you could also add a little bit more stock or water to loosen it up. You could also blend the soup if you wanted to, but I'm keeping it rustic and chunky. Oh, also make sure to pull your ugly croissants out of the oven at this point. That is a video for another day. And that's all there is to it, really. You can garnish the soup any way you see fit. We made the crispy bacon pieces today, which are classic, and I also made some croutons when you weren't looking. But oyster crackers would also be nice. A dash of hot sauce, maybe? I'm getting hungry. Let's go give this soup a taste. Cold weather makes soup taste better, so let's go enjoy this in the open air. Let's duck into this park before we run out of light. Find a nice, quiet spot. Nothing like natural plating. My travel mug kept the soup nice and hot. I'll take a few croutons, some pieces of bacon, and now we go to taste. What a blissful little soup moment. This is such a perfect cold weather meal. Smoky, savory, warms the bones. So thank you for joining me today. Remember that beautiful homemade soup is easily within your grasp. It brings a comfort that you can't buy at the grocery store. A comfort you can share with your friends and loved ones. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the thumbs up button. It helps Brian and me make sure our videos have the best chance of being seen by the world. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we have many more videos coming and we're only getting better, so you don't want to miss them. Until next time, cheers.